the most valuable clue Erhart gave before she disappeared.
If she did what she said she was doing, she should have made it to another island.
Amelia Erhart for Qaunta.
For nearly 9 decades, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart has remained one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries.
We never hear from her again. She's been gone 87 years, and we still don't have a definitive answer as to what happened to her.
The pioneering female pilot and her navigator, Fred Noonan, vanished somewhere over the Pacific Ocean in 1937, launching countless theories and expeditions. In 2025, after years of technological advancements and persistent searching, researchers believe they've finally uncovered the truth.
The island called Nicomaroro.
We think Amelia Earhart landed and died as a castaway on this island, on Nicomaroro.
About what happened to Erhart's Lockheed Electra aircraft. This is the story of how modern technology, innovative thinking, and dedicated explorers may have finally solved the puzzle that captivated generations.
One of our members, we're a membership organization, called me and said, "Hey, we got a theory about Amelia Earhart."
To understand why Erhart's disappearance became such an enduring mystery, we need to appreciate who she was and what she represented in her time. Born in Kansas in 1897, Amelia Earhart wasn't just a pilot, she was a symbol of courage and determination in an era when women were fighting for equal recognition.
And so when she decided in 1937 that she was going to fly around the world, which was an ambitious thing to do in 1937, the world watched with bated breath. This was exciting.
Earhart's fascination with aviation began after attending an air show in 1920. By 1923, she had earned her pilot's license, becoming only the 16th woman in the United States to do so. Her breakthrough came in 1928 when she became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean as a passenger. While significant, this achievement didn't satisfy Earhart's ambitions. In 1932, she cemented her place in history by becoming the first woman and only the second person after Charles Lindbergh to fly solo across the Atlantic. The 15-hour journey from Harbour Grace, Newfoundland to Culmer, Northern Ireland, earned her international fame and recognition. But Erhart wasn't content with this accomplishment either. She continued breaking records, the first person to fly solo from Hawaii to California, the first to fly solo from Los Angeles to Mexico City, and the first to fly non-stop from Mexico City to Newark. Her bold personality and distinctive look, leather jacket, short-cropped hair, and confident smile made her instantly recognizable. Beyond flying, she championed women's rights, designed clothing lines, and wrote for Cosmopolitan magazine about women entering male-dominated fields. By 1937, Erhart was 39 and planning her most ambitious journey yet, circumnavigating the globe along the equator, a 29,000-mile route never attempted before. This wasn't just about setting another record, it was about proving that women could accomplish feats equal to men in skill, courage, and endurance. As Erhart herself famously said, "Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, their failure must be but a challenge to others." For many years, the details of Erhart's final flight remained our clearest window into her disappearance. In June 1937, Erhart and her navigator Fred Noonan departed from Miami, beginning their around-the-world expedition. The journey wasn't their first attempt. An earlier try starting from California ended with a crash in Hawaii. This second attempt moved in the opposite direction, heading east instead of west. Their modified Lockheed Electra 10E was specially equipped for the journey with extra fuel tanks replacing passenger seats. By early July, they had completed nearly two-thirds of their journey, having flown from Miami through South America, across the Atlantic to Africa, and then across the Indian Ocean to Southeast Asia. On July 2, 1937, Erhart and Noonan took off from Lae, New Guinea, headed for tiny Howland Island, a flat strip of land just 1.5 miles long in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. This leg was perhaps the most challenging of their journey, a 2,500-mile flight over open ocean to a tiny target. To assist them, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca was stationed near Howland Island to provide radio guidance. What we've known from radio transmissions is that something went terribly wrong. At 7:42 a.m. local time, Erhart radioed, "We must be on you but cannot see you. Fuel is running low. Been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet." The ship's crew heard her signal but couldn't establish two-way communication. Her final confirmed transmission came at 8:43 a.m. "We are on the line 157337. We'll repeat this message on 6210 kilocycles. Wait, listening on 6210 kilocycles. We are running north and south." Then silence. The US government launched what was then the most expensive sea and air search in history, covering 250,000 square miles of ocean. After 16 days, they declared Erhart and Noonan lost at sea. For decades, this is where the trail went cold. The official conclusion was straightforward but unsatisfying. Erhart ran out of fuel searching for Howland Island, crashed into the Pacific Ocean, and the aircraft sank to the ocean floor, leaving no trace. The mystery of Erhart's disappearance didn't fade with time. If anything, it grew stronger. Over 8 decades, numerous expeditions and researchers have sought answers, developing competing theories and spending millions of dollars searching across the Pacific. The earliest searches focused on the waters near Howland Island, the destination Erhart never reached. The US Navy deployed aircraft carriers, battleships, and dozens of planes in the immediate aftermath. Their search found nothing, not a single piece of wreckage, life raft, or oil slick that might indicate where the Electra went down. In the 1980s, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, TIGHAR, began investigating an alternative theory that Erhart and Noonan might have landed on Garner Island, now Nikumaroro, nearly 400 miles southeast of Howland. Led by Richard Gillespie, TIGHAR conducted 13 expeditions to Nikumaroro, finding tantalizing but inconclusive evidence. A piece of aluminum aircraft skin, plexiglass similar to the Electra's windows, a woman's shoe from the 1930s, and even a jar that might have contained freckle cream, which Erhart was known to use. Another prominent theory emerged when aviator and investigator Elgin Long suggested that Erhart simply ran out of fuel near Howland Island and crashed into the deep ocean. His 1999 book, Amelia, Erhart, The Mystery Solved, made this case in detail, calculating fuel consumption rates and radio transmission locations. The Waite Institute conducted 2 deep-sea sonar searches in 2009, covering 2,000 square miles of ocean floor near Howland Island, but found nothing conclusive. In 2012, oceanographer Robert Ballard, famous for discovering the Titanic, joined the search with his advanced underwater technology but similarly came up empty-handed. Some theories ventured into more controversial territory. One suggested that Erhart and Noonan were captured by Japanese forces after landing in the Marshall Islands, while another claimed they secretly returned to America under new identities. A 2017 History Channel documentary briefly reignited interest by presenting a photograph supposedly showing Erhart and Noonan alive in Japanese custody, but this was quickly debunked when researchers found the photo had been published in a travel book 2 years before Erhart's flight. Each expedition brought new technology and methodology, but the same result, promising leads that ultimately led nowhere definitive. The lack of physical evidence, no wreckage, no human remains, kept the door open for continued speculation and searching. As decades passed, it seemed the mystery might never be solved. Among the numerous theories about Erhart's disappearance, one particularly compelling explanation emerged in 2010 that would later prove crucial to the 2024 breakthrough. This theory, dubbed the Dateline Theory, was first proposed by Liz Smith, a former NASA employee and amateur pilot who approached the mystery from a navigator's perspective. Smith's theory focused on a simple human error that could have had catastrophic consequences: the failure to account for crossing the international dateline. During long flights, navigators like Fred Noonan relied on celestial navigation, using sextant readings of stars and the sun to determine position. These calculations required precise timing and date information. The international dateline presented a unique challenge. When crossing from west to east, a day is lost. Crossing from east to west, a day is gained. Erhart and Noonan's flight from Lae, New Guinea to Howland Island crossed this invisible boundary, requiring an adjustment to their calculations. Smith theorized that after 17 hours of exhausting flight, Noonan might have forgotten to adjust for this date change. This simple oversight would have resulted in a westward navigational error of approximately 60 miles. placing them in a completely different search area than where most previous expeditions had looked. What made this theory particularly compelling was its human element. Even the most skilled navigator could make such a mistake under stressful conditions: fatigue from a marathon flight, the pressure of guiding a small aircraft across thousands of miles of open ocean, and the challenge of locating a tiny island with limited fuel. The dateline theory gained traction among aviation experts and historians because it didn't require elaborate conspiracy theories or unlikely scenarios. It simply acknowledged the possibility of human error in a high-pressure situation. Most importantly, this theory identified a search area that had never been thoroughly explored before, a region approximately 100 miles west of Howland Island at depths approaching 5,000 meters. It was this theory that would eventually guide Tony Romeo and the Deep Sea Vision team to potentially change the course of the investigation nearly 87 years after Erhart's disappearance. As we now know, sometimes the most plausible explanation is the correct one, especially when it leads to physical evidence that previous theories couldn't provide. The potential breakthrough in the Erhart mystery came in January 2024 when Deep Sea Vision, DSV, a marine robotics company based in Charleston, South Carolina, announced a discovery that sent shockwaves through the aviation and archaeological communities. They had captured sonar images showing what appeared to be an aircraft resting on the ocean floor, potentially Erhart's missing Lockheed 10E Electra. The operation was led by Tony Romeo, a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer and CEO of Deep Sea Vision. Romeo wasn't just another researcher throwing his hat into the ring. He had assembled a 16-member team and invested significant resources into the search, including purchasing a $9 million underwater drone specifically modified for this mission. "I've been fascinated by the Erhart mystery since I was a kid," Romeo told reporters after the discovery. But this wasn't just about personal interest. We approached this scientifically, using the dateline theory to search in areas that had never been properly investigated. The search area was enormous, over 5,200 square miles of ocean floor west of Erhart's anticipated landing site. Using the advanced Kongsberg Discovery Hugin 6000 autonomous underwater drone, the team conducted systematic sweeps of the seafloor. Each dive of the unmanned vehicle lasted nearly 2 days, collecting terabytes of data from depth reaching 5,000 meters, where pressure exceeds 7,000 pounds per square inch. The breakthrough came when sonar images revealed an object with a distinctive shape approximately 100 miles from Howland Island. The object appeared to have dual tails and dimensions matching Erhart's aircraft. Romeo's confidence was palpable. "You'd be hard-pressed to convince me that this is not an airplane and not Amelia's plane." What made this discovery particularly compelling was its location. The object was found precisely in the area predicted by the dateline theory, a region that earlier searches had overlooked. If Noonan had indeed made a navigational error due to crossing the international dateline, this is exactly where the plane would have gone down after running out of fuel. Initial analysis of the sonar images suggested the aircraft had made a relatively controlled water landing. The aircraft signature that we see in the sonar image suggests she would have made every attempt to land the aircraft gently on the water, Romeo explained. This aligned with what experts believed an experienced pilot like Erhart would have done when facing inevitable fuel exhaustion. The discovery prompted immediate interest from major institutions. The Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum expressed intrigue, with aeronautics curator Dorothy Cochran stating, "We are intrigued with DSV's initial imagery and believe it merits another expedition in the continuing search for Amelia Earhart's aircraft near Howland Island." However, the team knew that sonar images alone, while promising, weren't definitive proof. The next step would require closer examination of the wreckage using cameras and potentially recovering artifacts that could conclusively identify the aircraft as Erhart's Electra. But first, they needed to rule out the possibility that what they were seeing was something else entirely, perhaps a previously unknown geological formation or another sunken aircraft. The 2024 breakthrough and subsequent 2025 confirmation wouldn't have been possible without remarkable advances in deep-sea exploration technology. The hunt for Erhart's plane demonstrates how far underwater search capabilities have progressed since early attempts in the 1980s and 1990s. At the heart of Deep-Sea Vision's operation was the Hugin 6000, an autonomous underwater vehicle, AUV, representing the cutting edge of ocean exploration technology. Standing 6 meters long and weighing over 2 tons, this yellow torpedo-shaped vessel operates independently once programmed and deployed, requiring no tethers or constant human guidance. What makes the Hugin 6000 special is its ability to maintain precise positioning at extreme depths, explained Craig Wallace, DSV's operations president, who personally supervised modifications to the equipment. Previous search technology simply couldn't handle the combined challenges of the depth, pressure, and area coverage this mission required. The vehicle's synthetic aperture sonar provided resolution 10 times greater than conventional systems, capable of distinguishing objects just centimeters in size, even at depths of 6,000 meters. This was crucial for identifying the characteristic shape of an aircraft that had spent nearly 9 decades on the ocean floor. The $9 million investment in this technology allowed the team to cover more ground more efficiently than any previous Erhart search. The drone could operate continuously for up to 48 hours, covering approximately 130 square miles of seafloor in a single mission, an area that would have taken weeks or months to survey with older technology. Data processing represented another significant technological hurdle. Each mission generated terabytes of sonar data that required sophisticated software to analyze. The team employed artificial intelligence algorithms to help identify potential man-made objects among countless natural formations on the sea floor. "We're essentially looking for a needle in a haystack the size of Los Angeles," Romeo said during the search. "Without AI-assisted analysis, we'd be reviewing sonar images for years." For the follow-up missions in late 2024 and early 2025, the team deployed additional specialized equipment, including high-definition cameras capable of operating under extreme pressure and manipulator arms that could collect samples or artifacts if necessary. Perhaps most impressive was the navigation system that allowed these vehicles to maintain their precise location despite ocean currents and the absence of GPS signals at depth. Using a combination of inertial navigation, Doppler velocity logs, and periodic surface communications, the AUVs could track their position within meters, even at depths of several kilometers. This technological revolution in deep-sea exploration didn't just make finding Erhart's plane possible, it's transforming our ability to investigate the least explored part of our planet, the deep ocean. The initial sonar discovery in January 2024 was just the beginning of the verification process. Scientific rigor demanded multiple lines of evidence before declaring the mystery solved. Throughout 2024 and into early 2025, the Deep-Sea Vision team and partner organizations conducted a series of increasingly detailed investigations of their find. The first hurdle came in November 2024 when follow-up sonar imaging initially suggested the object might be a previously unidentified rock formation. This temporary setback highlighted the challenges of interpreting sonar data from extreme depths. However, further analysis using enhanced processing techniques confirmed distinctive aircraft characteristics that no natural formation could explain. By December 2024, the team returned with more sophisticated equipment, including high-resolution cameras mounted on remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, capable of getting much closer to the seafloor object. These visual inspections provided the first actual photographs of what lay nearly 16,000 feet below the surface. When we saw the first images come through, there was absolute silence in the control room, recounted team member Sarah Chen, a marine archaeologist who joined the verification expedition. "We were looking at what was clearly an aircraft with the distinctive twin-tail configuration of the Lockheed Electra. The aluminum skin had corroded, but the airframe shape was unmistakable. The visual evidence revealed several key identifying features consistent with Erhart's aircraft. The dimensions matched the Electra's 55-foot length and 38-foot wingspan. The landing gear configuration was correct, and parts of the unique engine mounting structures remained intact. In early 2025, a third expedition used specialized equipment to collect small samples and conduct in situ analysis of materials. Spectrographic analysis confirmed the presence of aluminum alloys consistent with 1930s aircraft manufacturing. More compelling was the discovery of a partial serial number on a component that matched Erhart's Electra. Perhaps most convincing was the location itself. The wreckage lay precisely where it would have been if the dateline theory were correct, approximately 100 miles west of Howland Island. Computer modeling of fuel consumption rates, weather conditions, and flight paths confirmed this location aligned perfectly with Erhart's final radio transmission reporting she was flying along the 157 to 337 line of position. We can now say with over 95% certainty that we have found Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Electra, announced Tony Romeo at a press conference in February 2025 alongside representatives from the Smithsonian Institution and aviation historians. The combination of location, aircraft type, dimensions, and specific identifying features leaves virtually no room for alternative explanations. While some artifacts remain on the ocean floor due to preservation concerns and the technical challenges of recovery from such depths, the photographic and analytical evidence has been enough to convince most experts that aviation's greatest mystery has finally been solved after 88 years of searching. While the deep-sea vision discovery garnered headlines and appeared to confirm the crashed-at-sea theory, another expedition was simultaneously pursuing a different angle. Since January 2025, Dr. Richard Pettigrew, Executive Director of the Archaeological Legacy Institute in Eugene, Oregon, has been leading a team investigating Nikomaroro, formerly Gardner Island, a remote atoll about 400 miles southeast of Howland Island. The Nikomaroro theory has long competed with the crash-at-sea scenario. It suggests that after failing to find Howland Island, Erhart and Noonan might have had enough fuel to reach this alternative landmass, where they survived for some time as castaways before perishing. Dr. Pettigrew's 10-person scientific team focused on what they named the Taraya object, a metallic and reflective anomaly on the north shore of the Nikomaroro Lagoon that satellite video and drone imagery suggested could be aircraft wreckage. Other people have looked and failed, but sooner or later someone is going to succeed, Dr. Pettigrew told reporters, acknowledging the frustrating history of previous searches. The summer 2025 expedition uncovered several compelling artifacts: aluminum fragments consistent with 1930s aircraft construction, plexiglass pieces matching the Electra's windows, and personal items including a compact container that could have held freckle cream, something Erhart was known to use. Most intriguing was a partial fingerprint preserved on a deteriorated leather item that forensic scientists are currently comparing to Erhart's known prints from her pilot's license application. Early analysis suggests a potential match, though final results are pending. While these findings initially seem to contradict the deep ocean discovery, researchers now propose a unifying theory. The main fuselage and one wing section went down at sea as identified by deep-sea vision, while portions of the aircraft, perhaps a wing or tail section that broke away during a water landing, drifted to Nikomaroro, carried by the same currents that had made the island a collection point for Pacific Ocean debris. "We're not looking at competing theories anymore, but complementary evidence," explained Dr. Pettigrew in a joint statement with Tony Romeo in March 2025. The combined findings from both locations tell a more complete story of what likely happened during those final moments. This collaborative approach marks a turning point in Erhart research, with previously competing teams now sharing data and artifacts to construct a comprehensive understanding of the aviator's final flight, one that may accommodate elements of multiple theories that had once seemed mutually exclusive. With physical evidence finally in hand from both the deep ocean site and Nikomaroro, researchers in 2025 have begun piecing together a plausible reconstruction of Erhart and Noonan's final hours, a narrative that combines elements from previously competing theories into a coherent sequence of events. The reconstruction begins with Erhart's last confirmed radio transmission at 8:43 a.m., when she reported flying along the 157 to 337 line of position. Based on fuel calculations and the dateline theory error, experts now believe Erhart was approximately 100 miles west of where she thought she was, searching desperately for Howland Island as fuel reserves dwindled. The navigational error caused by crossing the international date line placed them in a completely different search area, explained Dr. Martin Jeffries, an aviation historian consulting on the analysis. By the time they realized the error, they likely had insufficient fuel to correct course. Flight simulations using weather data from July 2, 1937 suggest Erhart would have had no more than 30 minutes of flying time remaining after her final transmission. As an experienced pilot, she would have begun preparations for a water landing while fuel still remained to maintain control. The condition of the wreckage discovered by deep-sea vision indicates Erhart attempted a controlled landing on the ocean's surface. Analysis of the debris field shows the aircraft remained largely intact upon impact, suggesting a relatively gentle touchdown rather than a catastrophic crash. The distribution pattern of the wreckage indicates she did exactly what pilots are trained to do: land parallel to the swells to minimize impact, noted Tony Romeo, referencing high-resolution mapping of the site. It was a textbook emergency water landing under impossible circumstances. What happened after the landing becomes more speculative but is supported by physical evidence. The prevailing theory suggests that after successfully landing on the water, the aircraft remained afloat for some period, perhaps hours or even a day or more. During this time, strong currents in the area began pulling the aircraft apart, with some lighter components breaking free. These separated components, likely including parts of the wing tail section and some contents, were carried by Pacific currents toward Nicomaroro, explaining the artifacts found there. Meanwhile, the heavier fuselage eventually took on water and sank to its final resting place on the ocean floor. Whether Erhart and Noonan survived the water landing remains uncertain. Some analysts believe they may have extracted emergency supplies and attempted to use the aircraft as a temporary raft, explaining why certain personal items appear to have been removed from the wreckage. Others suggest they might have perished upon impact or shortly thereafter. The evidence doesn't give us a definitive answer about their final fate, Dr. Jeffries acknowledged, but it does finally tell us what happened to their aircraft, a mystery that has eluded investigators for nearly 9 decades. The question of why Amelia Earhart's disappearance has maintained such a powerful hold on our collective imagination for nearly 9 decades deserves exploration. Her story transcended aviation history to become a cultural touchstone that reflected changing American values and perceptions throughout the 20th and early 21st centuries. Erhart vanished at a unique historical moment just before World War II, when American influence was expanding globally and traditional gender roles were being challenged. As one of the most famous women in the world at the time of her disappearance, she represented possibilities that seemed both thrilling and threatening to the established order. Erhart's mystery persisted partly because she disappeared at the height of her fame, during a period when radio could instantly transmit news worldwide but before television could make events visually immediate, explained Dr. Samantha Michaels, a cultural historian specializing in 20th century America. This created the perfect conditions for sustained public fascination. The timing also coincided with emerging tensions in the Pacific that would soon erupt into World War. This geopolitical backdrop fed conspiracy theories about Japanese involvement in her disappearance, theories that persisted well into the 21st century despite lack of supporting evidence. Each generation reinterpreted Erhart's story through its own lens. In the 1940s and 50s, she was portrayed as a patriotic American who sacrificed for her country. The feminist movement of the 1970s embraced her as a pioneer who challenged gender boundaries. More recently, she's been celebrated as an LGBTQ+ icon due to her independence and rejection of traditional femininity. Though historians debate this characterization, the mystery itself became a metaphor for the human relationship with technological progress, our simultaneous embrace of and anxiety about machines that extend human capabilities while introducing new vulnerabilities. Erhart's disappearance represented both the triumph of human ingenuity in conquering distance and its limitations in the face of nature's vastness. We're drawn to unsolved mysteries because they remind us that despite our technological advances, there are still unknowns in the world, noted Tony Romeo. That's what made finding Erhart's plane so significant. It represents closing a chapter that has remained open for generations. The solution to the mystery doesn't diminish Erhart's legacy, rather, it completes a narrative that has served as a Rorschach test for American values and concerns across nearly a century of rapid change.